More light is shed on mental health issues ignited during the pandemic.
Tonight, in our special Back to School series, we look into the growing mental health crisis among American students returning to school.
Mental Health America, a nonprofit, discovered children ages 11 to 17 are experiencing the highest rates of severe depression.
As a parent, having some sense of what kids are going through now and how intense and challenging it has been, we got to be there for them.
Before the pandemic, life was predictable. I went to school, hung out with my friends, went home, did my homework, and went to sleep. However, once the pandemic hit, everything changed. I'm Hajar Bouchour, a high school sophomore from downtown Brooklyn, and you're listening to Miseducation, a podcast about inequity in the New York City school system from those who know the system best. Students. I'm here with my two fellow student reporters.
Hi, I'm Kelvin Ajiman, a high school junior from the Bronx.
And I'm Rabia Mahisha, a high school junior from Manhattan.
This season is called Unmuted. We've been in remote school for over a full year, and you better believe we have something to say.
Hajar, Rabia, and I has spent the past 6 months reporting a story about New York City students' mental health during the pandemic and what resources are and are not being provided for us. And the thing is, a lot of adult officials have been acknowledging the impacts of the pandemic on students' mental health. But how much of this concern is just talking? What systems have been put in place to support us students? Can they even imagine what we're going through? We decided to put their words to the test.
And it's recording too. Okay, so let me just scroll. This is Rabia. I'm on a Zoom call here with Hajar and Kelvin. It's January 18 at around 1 o'clock, and we're trying to figure out what mental health resources are available to students.
So let's read it out loud. 1 in 5 children struggle or at some point in their life will struggle with their mental health.
These are the statistics at the top of the NYC DOE mental health page. The first thing we notice is that the mental health page isn't very long, shorter than any essay I've ever written. Directly underneath the stats, there's information about NYC Well, a hotline and chat line where students can speak to a social worker or a peer support specialist to get help.
Let's call the number at the top, the one that says get help immediately.
Okay, 9355, right? Ooh, kind of shaky.
Oh my God.
Thank you for reaching out to NYC. Wow, may I help you today?
Hello. I'm a student reporter from the Miseducation podcast. I would like to ask some questions pertaining to students' mental health and the resources that NYC DOE offers to students.
Okay. All right. So you kind of want to know the scope of our services?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So we are, we're a mental health crisis hotline.
In response to our question about what resources they offer, we're told that it depends on what the student needs. Based on what the student's situation is, they would refer the student to a clinic so they can receive professional assistance. I'm surprised by the number of resources they say they can connect students with.
This is a good service. I think that they're at least trying, and, it might help a lot of kids.
Verdict? We all agreed that the NYC Well hotline, especially the peer support specialist option, seems really helpful, but none of us have ever heard of it. Underneath the hotline, the section on the website reads as follows. Mental health resources are available to every public school in New York City. The school mental health program offers support so schools meet the emotional health and academic needs of their students. Kelvin, Hajar, and I are confused.
Guys, I don't think my school has this.
It's kind of ironic that they say that one of these programs are at your child's school, like they're implying every single child, when I really straight up don't see this in my school at all.
So let's recap. There's a citywide hotline called NYC Well that is actually pretty helpful, but the students don't know about it. In terms of what the school is offering directly, seems like it's all over the place. More on that from Hajar after this quick break.
Hey listeners, I'm Mira, program lead for the Miseducation podcast. At The Bell, we've been thinking a lot about how to connect more young people with journalism and storytelling opportunities like this one. If you're a teacher or work with young people, and you've ever thought to yourself, it'd be really cool to help my students make a podcast or launch a newspaper, we would love to support you. Drop us an email at info@bellvoices.org so we can get in touch. Now, back to the show.
With these students returning, I mean, you mentioned the stress that they've been under for the past year. How prepared is the city to support these students emotionally now?
Great question. Thank you, Henry. This is something I feel very passionately about.
This is Mayor Bill de Blasio speaking at a press conference on March 8th.
I think for kids coming back, they're going to see that the adults in the building are very attuned to their mental health needs and ready to support them. Go ahead, Chancellor.
I would absolutely agree with that. And I just want to thank all of the teachers, principals, counselors.
And this is Misha Porter, the new school's chancellor.
This isn't a re-enter the building moment. It's something our schools have been doing all along. We are very clear about the needs to meet them where they are, both social, emotionally, in order to bring them where we know they will be and can be academically.
Okay, I was hoping maybe there'd be something a little bit more specific on that.
My thoughts exactly. So then they try to answer the question again.
So first of all, I will say that our schools have already been engaging in ensuring that we have advisory in our schools. Our counselors have been superheroes. There are so many things that are happening specifically in schools. Again, advisory. Again, academic planning. So there are very many things happening in our schools.
Some important phrases I noticed in the mayor and chancellor's answers are would do, what's about to happen, already doing, and very many things. A pattern that I see here, similar to most adult leaders who talk about this issue, is that they are so vague. The reporters asked for a specific plan, and all he got was stuff and things. The one concrete program that was mentioned here is advisory. So what is advisory? Kelvin, do you want to explain?
Yeah, basically it's a class during the school day where around 10 to 15 students meet with an adult from the school and have small group conversations about non-academic topics. One of the goals is to create a safe space where students can discuss their feelings as well as try to connect with their classmates.
Before the pandemic, at my school, we had advisory twice a week. We'd clear some space in the center of a classroom and pull up chairs in a circle. But I never considered advisory something to make sure I'm doing okay mentally. It's a place where I'd go at 9 a.m. to talk about what new show I started or my thoughts on different chicken fast food restaurants. So I don't think it should be put under the label of mental health resource.
I actually spoke to a friend of mine named Arnold about advisory, and he had something different to say.
We have advisory class every morning, so we see him every day. He checks in with everybody every day.
Arnold is talking about his advisory teacher, Mr. Cameron. And why are you so close to Mr. Cameron?
He's open-hearted, so whatever you're dealing with or anything, if you have any stresses, you could come to him and he'll give you good advice.
And do you think it's tedious that your school is making it a requirement for you to talk to Mr. Cameron and your two guidance counselors,
No, because if the school really gave us a choice, I don't think much people would do that on their own. But now that they make it a requirement, it allows people to do it. Because people, they want to connect with their advisory teacher, but they'll never come out and go talk to them on their own.
Since Arno is a freshman, he's never met anyone from his school in person. But he said he does feel supported. The one-on-one relationship he was able to build with his advisory teacher has clearly made a big difference.
And that seems to be what the DOE is counting on in every school. personal relationships between students and adults, so that every student has at least one person to go to for support. But is that realistic? And is it enough? To answer those questions, I decided to start close to home.
Come on. Okay.
This is Alyssa Lembo, an outgoing, empathetic guidance counselor at my high school.
First question.
Okay.
What factors do you think impact students' mental health relating to school?
Isolation, it's developmentally appropriate for people your age to be, trying to be autonomous and independent. And like, here you are in the house where everybody else is. And that's a weird thing. And then there's also just the worry of the pandemic and when is it going to end? Is one of my loved ones going to get sick? Is somebody going to lose a job? All of that stuff is just like way too much.
Throughout her years of being a counselor, she has seen many different approaches to supporting students' mental health. The latest, like we've heard, is advisory, which at my school we call circles.
I've been personally trying to talk about depression and anxiety in my circles, but engagement is a huge thing. It's hard to get students to engage or even show up for things like that.
Circles don't quite work in our Zoom squares. In my circle, usually 6 out of 10 show up off camera, but only half actively participate. So besides the low-attended, awkward Zoom circles, it's really up to the student to reach out and ask for support. And that's hard. Miss Lembo can relate.
Even the first time when I was trying to get myself to make an appointment to go to talk to somebody, I was afraid. I really was. And I literally remember, I could remember it right now, like calling the place and someone answered and I hung up. Because I got like worried, like I'm like, what's going to happen? Like the uncertainty of it, I think.
I learned from Miss Lembo that apparently my school used to have more mental health supports than it does now.
We had a therapist. She was an actual therapist, not a school counselor. She had more training, more credential, and she had her own office in the school, and she would see students during the school day right in the school.
But by the time I got to the school, the 3-year grant money that paid for the therapists had run dry. The lack of mental health professionals in New York City's schools is striking. What do we have? Safety agents? Thousands of them. In fact, in New York City's schools, there are more safety agents than counselors, therapists, psychologists, and social workers combined.
There are some schools that actually do have like mental health clinic. So I think mental health organizations should be in every school, and that could benefit a lot more students.
I agree with Ms. Lembo, but the reality is that most students don't have a clinic in their school. And even if they do, students haven't had the same access to them since the pandemic hit. So the question remains, where should students turn?
While it sounds like we all agree that there should be more counselors and therapists in schools, right now the people students rely on for support? Teachers. Teachers are forced to play a really big part in the well-being of students. I wondered if schools had any protocols in place to help teachers support students' mental health. So I decided to talk to 2 of my teachers from my high school in East Harlem.
In the start of like this new school year on Zoom, they didn't like give you any like instructions or anything pertaining to like stress levels or like anxiety given to students.
Yeah, I guess we were supposed to be, asking students how they're feeling, like on a day-to-day basis.
This is my AP biology teacher, Mr. M.
Kelvin, I'm not sure I've been,
Yeah.
we don't have time for all that. So, I just kind of like make it so that there's at least a balance in the way we're kind of approaching things and doing things, right? Like consistency in what we're doing. That is how I'm dealing with it, because I got to tell you, I know everybody's talking about students, but it's also like draining on the teachers too. Like,
Yeah.
I've never, and I'm not one to kind of let you know about that, obviously, but it's different for us.
It's an honest answer. I know teachers are also going through challenges too. They can't effectively help students as they did before.
Show a better angle from my apartment. Gotta show my degrees,
This is Mr. C.
I only need your audio, so I don't like your face is not gonna show anywhere.
Oh man, I was looking forward to it.
So do you feel like you have time in your class to ask these questions and get to know students?
I think so. I think that, especially being PE, our curriculum is a little more flexible. So you'll notice some of the do-nows in my class are a little more casual, like, what's your favorite movie? And then also, at some point, like on my exit slip, I ask, like, what are you looking forward to today? It's like over and over again, like nothing. Like to me, like maybe there's a way I can help them.
These two interactions with my AP biology teacher and my PE teacher represent a possible trend. The level of support teachers can provide students may depend on what they're teaching and how much flexibility they have. I know for a fact that the intense AP biology curriculum with the pressure of an end-of-the-year exam has caused me and my classmates a lot of stress. Mr. M and Mr. C both emphasized how hard it has been for them to build connections with students over Zoom.
Obviously with Zoom, it's hard for kind of like judge whether or not somebody's feeling depressed or not over a camera that's, times turned off.
Even I'm guilty of not having my camera on a lot of the time, and it's frustrating for me too, not to be able to see my classmates, but it's so awkward to be like the only kid who has their camera on. Outside of classes, I haven't seen anything being done to support students at my school with mental health. We don't have advisory periods anymore, no school-wide announcements with resources to check out, no meditation breaks. Everyone still just seems really focused on getting us to do work.
After talking to friends, guidance counselors, teachers, and not getting concrete answers, we decided it was time to take our questions up the chain, way up the chain, to the New York City Department of Education Central Office.
So my background is actually as a school psychologist, working mostly in high schools.
This is Elizabeth Stranzel, the Director of Policy in the DOE's Division of School Climate and Wellness, which includes mental health.
My role on the team is really to do some of the strategy and policy work related to mental health and social emotional learning, thinking about how do we really bring all those different things together to serve one student.
Ms. Stranzel shared with me.
One of the things that we made available to all schools is something called the Bridge to School Plan.
The Bridge to School Plan is a 41-page PDF document with mental health and community building oriented teaching strategies.
What we wanted to do was be able to offer resources to schools that they could implement directly with young people without having to do a lot of work to come up with all this new stuff while they were also managing COVID. So we created the resource to say, here are best practices, here are activities. You can use this in your class with young people, and then they can take it and use it at home.
Besides Bridge to School, Ms. Stranzel described another DOE mental health initiative called Trauma Response Educational Practices, or TREP.
We had over 75,000 people participate in our professional learning trauma-informed care platform, which is huge.
This training occurred during the summer of 2020. It was for teachers and administration. It was 8 to 10 hours long and is being followed up with a reoccurring newsletter containing resources for its participants.
When you say trauma-informed training for adults, when they do get trained, how will that look like for students? Like, what should I be experiencing?
That's a great question. So trauma-informed care looks like an adult who understands, you know what, I'm going to start the Zoom 5 minutes early and let kids just drop memes or share social media accounts in the chat because people need to connect. It can look like an adult that says, you know what, I'm going to spend the last 5 minutes of my class doing a free writing exercise because my kids are feeling a lot of things and I want to give them a space to get it out. It really looks like intentional time for relationships, creating a community in the classroom, and making sure that young people feel emotionally and physically safe and that they know how to get resources or extra help if they need it.
When I asked my fellow Miseducation interns about whether these strategies made it into their classrooms,
like the most that they do is tell us to breathe. Like we will start class and they will be like, oh, let's just take a mental mindness moment right now and just breathe in and breathe out, and then we'll start class. And I was like, I'm kind of laughing in my head because the damage is done. Like from the first semester, like mentally, I'm really done.
Advisory was kind of the only class-placed thing where we were even like discussing mental health, and now that's over and it's just college advisory, which is giving me even more anxiety.
They don't know where that intersection is, where it's like mental health support and giving rigorous academic workload. So like at the start of the year, we had like classes from 8 to like 2 and no breaks in between classes. So it was like class.
My teacher usually emails me sometimes like, oh, I hope everything's all right. So that's kind of nice, but I don't know if all teachers are doing that because I only get it from this certain teacher and my friends aren't all getting it either.
Like, they're trying. Like I gotta give them credit. They're trying, just that like they're not listening, so they're not succeeding.
Ms. Stranzel did mention something tangible that's in the works, a plan to hire 150 new social workers in schools. But in the months after we talked to her, that number went up even higher, thanks to the influx of money from the federal stimulus package.
They promised that they were going to hire 500 new social workers.
This is Mike Elson-Rooney, an education reporter for the New York Daily News.
With the commitment being that there would be a full-time dedicated social worker at every DOE school.
According to the DOE press office, the vast majority of these 500 new social workers have been hired. But, as Mike first reported in the Daily News, there was a negative side effect to this rapid hiring spree.
One of the places a lot of these new social workers have been coming from is mental health clinics that are run by nonprofits or by hospitals that also work in New York City public schools. And so I've heard that dozens of social workers were hired away from those positions to the DOE jobs, which pay more money. But some of the clinics are concerned that they now have staffing vacancies and that, in some cases, they may have to cut off or interrupt treatment for students because they can't fill those positions by the start of the school year.
While it is good to see the DOE at least making progress on filling the gap in mental health professionals, it's frustrating that it's taken so long. We're now 18 months into the pandemic and students have been in need of support from the very beginning. And what exactly do we need that we're not getting? I asked my fellow interns.
The first thing I would say is less work. Like, you cannot assign so much work. Like, it's draining trying to keep up with the amount of work that teachers, put out. And
I think that system of having a limit of how much homework or how many hours of homework a day someone gets.
I feel like every school should have an office hours for just mentals, so you can just talk, a place where you can vent to to your teacher and just with your peers around you.
What students want doesn't have to be complicated. We want to grow connections, be relaxed, and not feel pressured by unrealistic standards like having perfect grades, being happy all the time, and having a specific and completely laid out plan for the future.
If I could, one more thing, I would say one thing I need teachers to stop saying is that, students are failing right now. Students are not failing, students are surviving a pandemic.
After all this investigation, we can honestly say that New York City high school students are not receiving adequate mental health support right now. And the adults that are supposed to be here for us don't have a clear plan of action, which worries me. I personally noticed a lack of mental health support in my school and founded a club with some of my friends I got close with during quarantine. The club is called Safe Space, where students can talk about how to deal with mental health stress and share their experiences throughout this troubling time.
Hey guys, welcome to Safe Space. What are we doing today, Calvin?
Okay. Today is an open discussion day. What we talked about time management last week, right? And how
Yes, we did.
yeah, I mean, well, not last.
If you or someone you know is looking for support with mental health challenges, you can text WELL to 65173 or call 1-800-NYC-WELL. That's 1-800-692-9355. This episode was reported and written by Rabia Mahisha, Hajar Bushur, and Kelvin Ajiman. It was produced by Taylor McGraw. Music in this episode comes from Lens Lewis and Blue Dot Sessions. Miseducation is a program of the Bell and is supported by the Pinkerton Foundation, the Summerfield Foundation, and FJC. You can listen to all our past episodes by subscribing to Miseducation wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MiseducationPod. We'll be back soon with more from the series Unmuted, Stories from the Pandemic Year. Thanks for listening.